Here is the sharp truth. Leadership models are not interchangeable parts. You cannot bolt a serve first identity onto someone who has spent 20 years operating on achievement, control, and self-preservation. No seminar is going to rewrite that. No retreat is going to reprogram that. Pretending otherwise is how companies end up with inspirational quotes and mediocre execution. Hey there, senior leader, and welcome to the Talent Sherpa podcast. This is where senior leaders come to rethink how human capital really works. And today we're going to take on a leadership concept that everyone agrees with. It sounds noble in theory and sometimes collapses in practice. I am talking about the concept servant leadership. It looks great on posters. It photographs well next to a mountain lake, and it feels morally elevated in a culture deck. And yet, most organizations that try to build servant leadership cultures end up producing nothing close to it. If this sounds familiar, you probably follow me on LinkedIn. This was a major discussion in a recent comment section. I thought it was important enough to bring to y'all and have continued dialogue on it right here, because here is the sharp truth. Leadership models are not interchangeable parts. You cannot bolt a serve first identity onto someone who has spent 20 years operating on achievement, control, and self-preservation. No seminar is going to rewrite that. No retreat is going to reprogram that. And pretending otherwise is how companies end up with inspirational quotes and mediocre execution. Okay, hopefully this feels a little bit uncomfortable. I'm glad it does. That means you're awake, and we're going to get into it. But before we jump in, let me ask you for a quick favor. If this podcast gives you value, please smash that like and subscribe button, leave a 5-star rating. It does a couple things that are great. Number one, it will help other leaders find their footing. Number two, it will help reinforce the algorithm for more people to get to the content. And I want to share this episode is brought to you by Dripify. It's the cleanest way to scale your outreach without feeling like you've hired a bot to ruin your reputation. They help leaders build real networks without all the noise. Now let's talk about why servant leadership, as popularly sold, is one of the biggest myths in leadership. Servant leadership has become that golden child of leadership philosophies. It is a moral high ground. It's the model that sounds enlightened and progressive. Leaders nod along because no one wants to say, well, that doesn't sound like me at all. So HR builds training around humility and empathy and deep listening and serving others. There are usually flip charts involved, and people write phrases like lift others up and show up with heart, listen with ting. Managers leave these sessions feeling inspired for about 7 minutes. And then reality enters the chat. It's a tough quarter. It's a customer escalation. It's a board meeting that goes sideways, conversation with your boss that doesn't go well, senior leadership misses commitments, and suddenly the servant leadership mindset, poof, it vanishes. The leader snaps back into clarity, control, and decisive action. Why? I would argue it's because instinct always wins under pressure. Most leaders rose through systems that rewarded execution, independence, personal drive, making those trade-offs that feel uncomfortable when looked back with history, but at the time feel like the right thing to do. They didn't get promoted for service. They got promoted for impact, for taking ownership, for being the person who handled things when others froze. Servant leadership is great, but it collapses because companies keep trying to impose a personality pattern that most leaders just frankly don't have. And they can't fake under stress. So here's the trap that most companies fall into. They assume leadership philosophies are plug and play. Pick a model, train the leaders, and magically performance improves. The reality, I think, from my experience, is far different. Two flawed assumptions drive this myth. Faulty assumption number one: leaders can be reprogrammed. They can't. They can be coached on behavior. They can change their behaviors in the minute. They cannot, however, give them new instincts after 20 years of reinforcement. The OS they operated on is built from experience, from pressure, and reward cycles. So if you grew up in servant leadership, that works. But servant leadership is not something that you layer on top of that if it wasn't already there. Faulty assumption number two: servant leadership is universally ideal. This might be a little controversial, but I don't think it is. Many servant leaders avoid conflict. Some struggle with accountability. Some hesitate in high pressure decisions. Some protect people who should not be protected. A servant leadership culture sounds wonderful until you need speed, clarity, or courage. Then it becomes a drag. You can do things, and you don't need every leader to be a servant leader. You need the leaders who can create clarity, make decisions, and allocate talent in ways that run the business and move it forward. If they also have a service orientation, that's fantastic. If not, forcing it becomes a performance tax. Now, here's where the whole conversation shifts a little bit. The goal isn't to manufacture servant leaders. The goal is to engineer leadership context. Personality is who somebody is. Context is the system they operate within. So if you want leaders who behave with clarity and decisiveness, build an environment that demands it. And if you want leaders who think enterprise-wide, build expectations and rhythms that force that perspective. If you want leaders who grow others, build a system that rewards it. Leadership is shaped, in my experience, far more by conditions than by internal declarations and good intentions. So instead of trying to reshape personality, reshape the environment. When you engineer expectations, operating rhythms, decision rights, measurement systems, you get consistent leadership behaviors from a range of personalities, including servant leadership. That's the truth that most companies miss. Hire people whose instincts align with your strategy. Then create conditions where those instincts compound. That's way better than trying to change people's instincts. You don't need one leadership personality, no matter how noble it appears. What you need are patterns that drive the business forward. So if you're a sitting CHRO or wanting to be one soon, what are the kind of plays that you can run this week to make a difference? Here they are. Number one, define the leadership instinct that your strategy requires. You got to be honest about it. Speed demands a different instinct than precision. Innovation demands a different instinct than discipline. Match the leader to the strategy. Don't try to change who the leader naturally is. Play number two, engineer the environment. This is one that we have full control on. Leadership behavior, in my experience, is a product of expectations and operating rhythms. So if you build the clarity tools, the decision rights, accountability loops, and the meeting cadences that shape behavior you need, you're going to be way better off. Play number three, hire for instinct, not aspiration. If your culture requires deep service orientation, then hire people who already show it. If you want a conversation about how to do that, our friends over at Predictive Index and Culture Index have tools that allow you to do so in a way that is really, really hard to gain. But you shouldn't expect a conversion that will never happen. If your culture demands speed and clarity, hire humans that are already wired for that. People can behave different than their normal instincts, but not for very long and almost never when the pressure hits. And play number four, you got to coach behavior, not personality. You can coach clarity. You can coach conflict. You can coach delegation. You can coach accountability. You cannot coach someone into being wired in a way that they're not naturally wired. You got to treat leadership as an operating function. This is play five, not a moral identity. Leadership exists to produce clarity, to produce decisions, and produce talent leverage. Personality is the style, but the system is the substance. So I don't know how you're reacting to this, but if it's starting to shake loose a few of the assumptions that you once held, that's good. Servant leadership has been sitting on a pedestal for a long time. It is not naturally bad. I like working for people who have a servant leadership approach. I'm just saying that you can't bolt it onto someone's personality, and there are things that will drive behaviors better than trying to change people's core instincts. A little turbulence in the process never hurt anybody. And now that we're through the turbulence, let's see if we can land this cleanly. 4 takeaways. Number 1, servant leadership is a personality pattern, not a training module. Number 2, companies waste energy trying to rewire instinct when they should be redesigning context. Number 3, leadership's about clarity, decision rights, talent leverage, not a single moral identity. And number 4, the smartest leadership pipelines hire for instinct and engineers the environment then to amplify it. So thank you for spending part of your day with me. I want to give a shout out to Maya out in San Francisco. It's always good to know the Talent Sherpa community is coast to coast. If you want to know where to start with designing leadership expectations and context, instead of trying to download a personality that doesn't fit, that's where getpropulsion.ai comes in. They have AI teammates that help your leadership team focus on the work that actually drives business outcomes. If you're a first-time CHRO, you want to become one, I would love to work with you. We build tools that help you make an impact from day one. You can find everything you might need over at mytalentsherpa.com, and I write a weekly Substack that you can find at talentsherpa.substack.com. And of course, thanks to Dripify, which you can find at try.dripify.com/talentsherpa. So until next time, keep raising the bar, keep driving clarity, and keep on climbing.